We had no need for locks or warrants. Cowardice wardened us day and night. Fear was our only leader, leading us into exitless hills, where the sun bleached us white and dried the marrow in our bones. The country passed through an agonizing period of oppression when for 18 long months fear stalked human beings in every walk of life. A funeral silence fell over the entire nation as people were terrorized into submission. In a free and healthy society, the press and other allied media are free to comment on all aspects of national activity, to air different views fearlessly, to offer constructive criticism, not to churn out propaganda. On the 25th of June 1975, emergency was proclaimed, denying every kind of freedom to the individual and to the nation. Press censorship was imposed, and the entire working of the news media became a mockery. Some newspapers valiantly voiced their protest in an indirect manner. Journalists who refused to toe the line and compromise were put behind the bars, as was eminent journalist Kuldeep Nair.
I was very much perturbed over the imposition of censorship. The emergency was bad enough, but I didn't realize what it really meant. It meant that whatever I wanted to say, I could not say. To me, it was suffocation. So we all got together and we passed a resolution. The resolution said, I recall very distinctly, that we, the pressmen who have assembled here today, deplore the imposition of press censorship and urge upon the government to withdraw it immediately.
The emergency cracked down on all foreign correspondents in India. Humiliated at every turn, most of them chose to get out. The outside world would have been in the dark but for regular dispatches by a band of dedicated journalists like Mr. Sundarajan, who worked regardless of the consequences.
I managed to establish contacts with several foreign editors and began sending regular reports to them by airmail about what is happening. I remember the Guardian of London devoted an entire page to an article written by me, "The Empress Reigns Supreme." A lot of people helped me in my underground operation, and I sent to foreign newspapers a number of detailed interviews with JP on various aspects of the situation in India.
But the jails were not reserved for journalists alone. Writers, poets, even artists were picked up if they caused the slightest discomfort to the rulers. The tragic story of Snehalata Reddy. A sensitive stage and film actress, Sneha was acclaimed for her fine performance in her husband Pattabhirama Reddy's film Samskara. For her poignant portrayal in this film, Sneha was honored by the government. Later, she won government recognition of a different order.
And it's also ironic again that she was the victim of a police regime and practically died in jail, I would say. When under the emergency, she was quite fearless and bold in what she said. We used to pass literature, underground literature, and she would talk boldly to anybody, whether it's a government servant or even some ministers who happened to visit us. She was deeply concerned in everybody's problem. Such a person to die alone.
Another such family, Kerala, Ernakulam, Professor Warrior's house. A retired professor of Hindi, Professor Warrior lived a peaceful life with his family. a daughter Chandni studying in a college nearby, and the future hope of his family, Rajan, the only son, studying in the Regional Engineering College Calicut and staying in the college hostel. A studious and popular student, Rajan was also fond of dramatics and singing. Without any warning or any proper proceedings, Rajan was arrested and whisked away, never to be heard of or seen alive again.
I was knocking at every door to get the whereabouts of my son, but all my efforts did not give any result. Meanwhile, my wife, by the disappearance of her son, she was terribly upset, and that gave a very serious effect upon her, both mental and physical health. At last, I had to admit her in the hospital on February 4th. She had to undergo a very serious operation. On that day, I wrote to the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and the then Chief Minister, then Home Minister of Kerala, Mr. Karunakaran, asking them to arrange for a look at her son. But no reply. Then came the elections, and after the elections, the emergency was revoked. And at that time, on 25th March, that's a very important date. On that date, I wrote to our Honorable Prime Minister Morarji Desai, wherein I had written the first sentence of my letter representation was like this: आपात स्थिति का अंधकार सारे भारत से दूर हो गया, पर अकेले मेरा घर अब भी अंधकार में डूबा हुआ है.
Many ingenious methods were used to harass the poor. Ruthless campaigns were conducted, usually under the garb of some social benefit scheme. A handful of people who had seized power during the emergency masterminded many a campaign. Family planning became synonymous with a dreaded drive that knew no logic, no reason. Narayana Merugu is a victim who suffered irreparable physical damage and untold mental anguish. Semi-paralyzed, his speech totally impaired, Merugu is but one of the millions of victims of Operation Nasbandi. The government had amassed unprecedented power and wielded it readily. The railway strike of May 1974 was perhaps the first sign of the tremendous despondency of the masses. The strike was ruthlessly crushed. Many were arrested, including labor leader George Fernandez.
From the 2nd to the 8th of May, the newspapers, the radio, the TV, the entire media was used to carry on a campaign of lies and slander against the railwaymen and against the railwaymen's leadership. Then the most oppressive and repressive measures were also taken in hand, not only against the railwaymen but also against their families.
मला मिसाखाली अटक करण्यात आली. मी 9 महिने मिसाखाली अटकेत होतो. 9 महिन्याच्या काळामध्ये माझ्या कुटुंबाचे फार हाल झाले. जे युनियनकडून आणि संघटनेकडून जी 100-150 रुपये मदत मिळत असे, त्याच आधारावर कुटुंबाची गुजराण होत असे. या सगळ्या परिस्थितीमध्ये माझ्या डोळ्यापुढे काळा कुट्ट अंधार होता की पुढे मला नोकरीवर येईन मी अशी मला काही खात्री वाटत नव्हती.
Well, see, I'm a government servant. I'm working in a nationalized bank. At the very outset of the emergency, I was arrested at the Churchgate station. Then I was shifted to Arthur Road Central Prison, and after that to Yeroda Central Prison. See, I can say about the period during the emergency. When any non-official authority used to visit Bombay, being a government servant, we were asked to attend those meetings. Even I can say that on Saturdays, we were denied to go to our lunch also.
The student world was also affected. The primary duty of a student is to concentrate on his studies, to prepare for his future, to prepare for the future of his country.
As a student, I am apolitical, but whatever happened during the emergency, I had to take part because no self-respecting student could take this lying down. We were about 18 students who took part against the emergency by offering satyagraha. Our parents were harassed, our homes were being searched thoroughly. In the colleges, our principal used to intimidate us.
Well, I'm a commerce student, and that is that I study the economic development of a country and the new policies introduced by the government. Now, what happened during emergency was that we were not allowed to go into the pros and cons of the new policies introduced by the government. This resulted in vague knowledge and not complete knowledge of our subject. And we were not even allowed to put our theory into practical use. Therefore, we lost interest in what we were studying.
The discontent of the masses was expressed at every opportunity. To hush up the voice of the people, the rulers declared elections in a show of supreme overconfidence. The course of history was changed. A new party, the People's Party, was heralded in. The people had voted for democracy, for freedom. The world rejoiced as India celebrated its independence all over again. New leaders were ushered in.
मेरी तो भाई बहनों से यही प्रार्थना रहे कि हम सब निर्भय बन के काम करें, शांति से काम करें, एक दूसरे के सहकार से काम करें.
Indeed, it was time for jubilation, for fear was banished from the land and freedom regained. Press censorship was lifted and the newspapers were free to level criticism against the government itself, a part of the game in a healthy democracy. The media was unshackled and swiftly regained its lost credibility. For the first time in the nation's history, the opposition was provided a platform to reach the people.
हम जानते हैं कि हमारे इस महान देश के मतदाता समझदार हैं. वे हमारी कुछ गलतियों के कारण यही नहीं बुला सकते कि कांग्रेस संकीर्ण अर्थों में केवल एक राजनीतिक पार्टी नहीं, बल्कि शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से भारत के सामाजिक आर्थिक रूप परिवर्तन का एक आंदोलन है.
People from all walks of life were now free to air their discontent. Their voices would no longer be suppressed. The demands of the working classes, hitherto ignored, surfaced with a pent-up fury.
हड़ताल करके मजदूर अपनी मांगों को पूरा करते हैं और हमें अपनी मांगों को पूरा करना हमारा पूरा हक है, क्योंकि हम आज़ाद हैं और मजदूर अपनी मांगों को पूरा करने के लिए हड़ताल करता है और यही मजदूरों का हथियार है. मगर हर बात पर हड़ताल करना, जरा सी बात पर तालाबंदी करना, ये आज़ादी के माने नहीं है. इससे देश को नुकसान पहुंचता है और मजदूरों का भी नुकसान होता है. आज़ादी की ये माने नहीं कि बात पर हम हड़ताल करें.
The government believes in responding in a constructive manner. The stress is now on deeds and not empty rhetoric.
हमने सोचा भी नहीं था कि इतनी जल्दी हमारी मुसीबत के दिन खत्म हो जाएंगे. जब से ये नई सरकार आई, जब से हम अपने पैरों पर फिर से वापस खड़े हो गए.
Shri Madhu Dandavate.
I visited a number of product units of the railways and I visited a number of workshops and I found that the workers who were reinstated, they had such an enthusiasm that they decided to put in all their effort to improve the production and productivity. In this April, the loading has increased by 1 million tons as compared to last April in emergency. This reveals what type of enthusiasm is generated.
This enthusiasm carries us on to a new future. In Gitanjali, Rabindranath Tagore dreamt of the heaven of freedom. The promised land is now within our reach. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Where knowledge is free. Where the world is not broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Where words come out from the depth of truth. Where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sands of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action. Into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country away.